Hello everyone, Pantsman UK here with another PMUK Plays. This is episode 5. Since last you joined me, there's been a few changes in game. I've installed some new mods, more tree taps, more composite armour, the personal teleporter. They're all additions to IndustrialCraft 2, and then we've also got the crafting book installed as an alternative to Rizagami's recipe book, which is it's just a little bit easier to navigate around than Rizagami's recipe book. Not that there's anything wrong with recipe book Rizagami, it's a great mod. It could just be a little bit easier to navigate. And then the big money item, I suppose, is I've put equivalent exchange 5.3 I think it was 6, although it may have been updated again since I did that install. You'll see that when I build the recipe book, the recipes for equivalent exchange are in there. And before I get very much further, I want to say a big shout out to all my subscribers. Thank you one and all. Game Goner, at your suggestion, you'll have noticed I've got some music now. The theme tune is a very short section out of Widowmaker by DJ Zany, which is on Fusion Records in Holland, if memory serves me. But otherwise, all the rest of the music you're going to hear is free and royalty free from the internet, and it was all in a grouping called Atmospheric. So there you go. Plenty of lovely background music to listen to whilst I spend an hour in real life, 11 minutes on the video because I've compressed it 500% this time, spelunking and mining. So there we go, 11 minutes of watching me mine very quickly to come. So after yet another hour of spelunking, caving, mining, potholing, call it what you will, I've still got one diamond, and I'm starting to think there's a conspiracy going on here. I honestly thought that the map generation had stopped diamonds appearing in more than singles. Don't worry, I do understand the error of my ways soon enough. Anywho, sick with the whole mining and spelunking thing, I decide that now would be as good a time as any to start on some of the other Tier 1 industrial craft equipment, specifically a miner. Why should I do all the hard work when I have a machine do all the hard work for me? And once you upgrade it with the OV scanner, it can actually do a far better job than I can, because it will be more picky about its mining than I am. But having had a look at the stuff I've got on me, I don't have it all ready to go, so I dawdle for a little bit, making ingredients for the miner, and then I decide that perhaps making the rest of the bits for the solar flower would be a good idea. So I get on and do that, because I know how to do that off the top of my head. I don't have to look things up to do that. But having had a look at the stuff I've got on me, I don't have it all ready to go, so I dawdle for a little bit, making ingredients for the miner, and then I decide that perhaps making the rest of the bits for the solar flower would be a good idea. So I get on and do that, because I know how to do that off the top of my head. I don't have to look things up to do that. And equally, you've watched me make solar panels before now, so I don't see a lot of point in making you sit through it at normal speed. I'll zip through it just to get it over and done with, and we'll come back when the solar panels are all built and ready to go on the solar flower. And so, with my 12 remaining solar panels made for this first solar flower, there will be more, I promise you. Time to get them up and onto the rest of the solar flower. So having dawdled about doing not an awful lot by the looks of it, other than maybe making some prereq materials for the miner and the mining pipe and so on and so forth that the miner needs, I for some reason decided to go and collect some basalt from the volcano over by the NPC village. I suspect that this was me thinking ahead for the house I intended at the time to build, which I have now built, and given I'm waiting for mats to construct, I might as well do something else, which is, I suppose, what I did. Given I'm making a miner, that means I need mining pipe, and mining pipe uses tree taps, so I figure I might as well make a metal tree tap from more tree taps and give that a go, because that way I can stop worrying about keeping wooden ones for myself. And so finally, I'm sure some of you are thinking, I get around to making the prereqs and for the miner. I do apologise for how long this is taking to make, but I'm still quite low on general resource at this point. That's right, more spelunking, more mining. That's right, folks, more diamonds. That takes my total tally to 3, and I'm just ever so happy at this point. Of course, what I don't realise is that Equivalent Exchange has a really simple recipe if you install the Equivalent Exchange IndustrialCraft 2 add-on, whereby you can turn 8 bronze into 1 diamond. Trust me, I know that now. long last, I have all the bits I need now to make the miner. So that's what I do. And given that the miner itself needs lots of other bits, an OD scanner, a mining drill of some sort, I figure I may as well take the time and effort to make myself an electric tree tap at the same time and see how well those work. At this point, I'm starting to think about this scanner. I always start with an OD scanner, but I like to use an OV if I can. Problem with the OV scanner, of course, is you need glowstone to make it, which means making a trip to the nether to get some glowstone. And a portal necessarily needs obsidian, so why not build yourself a little 8-slot obsidianator? I would very much hope that you all know how to make redstone-fueled obsidianators by now. But just in case you don't, here's what you do. Dig yourself out a nice big flat area. I've done 8 by 5 here. Then dig the centre trench, which is going to be 8 long by 1 deep by 1 wide. Then next to that you go down a further layer so that that's now an inverted L shape, and then going one next to that again you take out that layer one up again. So what you've got is a bit of a T shape offset to the side of your 5 by 8 gap. What you then do is put a line of anything, I've used dirt here, that floats above the deepest part of that T-shaped trench. And that wants to be above ground level, as it were. If you consider ground level is where the 8 by 5 was, and I've dug down into that, across the top of ground level you're putting in a row of 8 somethings. Like I say, I've used dirt. Now unless you happen to have 8 buckets of water on you, you might as well make yourself an infinite water source. Again, hope you know how to make those. If not, dig a 2 by 2 hole. Well, this is one way of doing it. There are other ways. You can do it in a 3 by 1, but if you dig a 2 by 2 and just put a bucket of water in each corner, that makes an infinite still water source, which you mean, and from an infinite still water source you can take from any one corner over and over and over and over again. It won't upset the water source at all. It'll always go still again. So now it's just a case of filling in the water in the obsidianator. On the far side of the T, as you can see, I'm just putting water I'm putting a single water block all the way along. And I've fallen in and I can't get out now. So, dig a hole out, Murray. There you go. Dig yourself out. Now I can put stuff back in. Tiddly-pom, tiddly-pom. Right. Work my way along. And there we go. Now what you'll see is I've got one too many waters come over. So dig that back out. And what it should look like is that. Your water runs to a hole and just stops. So now what I need is redstone. Oh, and it was in the first chest because I'm blind. So yeah, get some redstone. In this part of the trench, stick down 8 redstone. Then take a lava bucket and pour it against your block in the middle there. That way it'll flow. Now, as long as you're careful about where you stand and you pick it back up fairly quickly, you don't need to worry. If you're the least bit slow in picking up the lava, what can happen is it'll flow. So what you can do is put a second dirt trench, a second dirt wall alongside the centre of the trench. Sorry, not the centre of the trench, the centre of your clear area. Pretty much where I'm standing when I'm pouring the lava. If you're at all worried, put another wall there, and that way the lava can't flow back onto you. Now I've made careful calculations of just how much I need to make for a portal, and there you go. You can see me putting in a block to prevent the lava flowing backwards on me. It's also handy to stand on to avoid lava problems later. Now, your one big problem with lava is it has a nasty habit of doing this, i.e. not going quickly enough. So throw down some blocks on top of it and it'll go instantly. And then dig out your obsidian. I would definitely recommend, if you're using IndustrialCraft et al., use a diamond mining drill to get the obsidian out. It's just hugely faster to use a diamond mining drill to get it out. So now I've got all the obsidian to make a portal. The only thing I need to do now is build a flint and steel so that I can light it. And as per usual, I get it the wrong way round first time. And then it's just a case of going and finding somewhere that I can make the portal itself. Now, because portals make quite a lot of noise, I move the portal far enough away from my hovel, that I won't be able to hear the sound of the portal actually pulsing, as it were. It's just a case of digging out a room for it to go in, and then digging out the 4 by 7 by 1 that the portal itself will sit in inside of the room. I tend to do this just because it makes it slightly easier later to box it in a nice way. And having dug out the hole for the portal to sit in, it's just a case of filling it back in with the 10 4 6 and 4 14 terribly sorry 14 bits of obsidian to make up the portal frame. And then I just take the flint and steel and light the portal itself so that it activates. Finally, I box up the room a bit better, prep myself to go to the nether by grabbing some cobblestone, and then make the jump to the nether. Now, the reason for taking the cobblestone with me is it's one of the few blocks that ghasts can't destroy. So if you just box around the portal with cobblestone whilst you're still stood in where the portal purple flowiness is, as long as you don't go out and go back in again, you'll be fine here. You can stand in the portal purple flowiness, the ghasts won't see you whilst they're spawning, and you can build a little bit of a tunnel extending out from the portal to hide in. Now that that's built and I've got somewhere I can hide from ghasts that won't cause the portal to be extinguished, terrible problem that one, you'll never forgive yourself if you go to the portal without your flint and steel and a ghast pops the portal itself. Anyhow, having built the hidey hole, I start looking for some glowstone. If I can see a nice big glowstone, let's call it a light fixing. It's not, but let's call it that. If I can see a nice big one of those close by, I'll go and take it. Unfortunately, there are no nice big ones close by, so I have to go for a bit of a wander to find one. And there's an almost perfect glowstone fixture. It's at about the same level as I am, and it's not too big and it's not too small. So now it's just a case of getting alongside it / above it and digging it out. Unfortunately, it's now that the ghasts find me, so I end up having to defend from the ghasts whilst at the same time mining out the glowstone to make glowstone dust. That's all the glowstone turned into glowstone dust, just a case of collecting it and running back to the portal now. All that, of course, means that now I've got some glowstone dust, I can make the OD scanner. Recipe's fairly simple and is right there in front of you. Otherwise, get yourself the crafting book or the recipe book and find it for yourself. And that's the scanner made and charged. Now it's just a case of going outside, finding somewhere for me to put the miner that'll give me a decent amount of ores, and letting it get on with it. Just so I don't forget, a torch marks the spot. 40 was the highest ore density I got off the OD scanner. Do remember, the OD scanner only scans a 5x5 region centered on where you're standing, so 40 isn't terribly good, to be honest. And it doesn't get an awful lot better when I have the miner finished on this first mark and go looking for the next one. In actual fact, it's not until I get done with mining altogether and I'm using the quarry that I start to find decent quantities of stuff. Mine in hand and light fading fast, I get things set up, and I believe I even get it turned on. I don't know it yet, but using geothermal turns out to be a huge mistake, and I'm not going to make it again. Leastways, not until I can do it all automatically. The really big problem with geothermal generators, especially when you're trying to run them manually like I am here, is that there's such a faff to keep going. Having to manually fill the fuel cells, having to not forget to take the fuel cells out of your crafting area so they don't get thrown into the lava. It only happened once. I learnt my lesson. There were a couple of last jobs I wanted to get done before finishing the video. The first, and to some extent most important one for me, was to get myself a philosopher's stone from Equivalent Exchange. And there we go, one philosopher's stone built, and that's a huge weight off my shoulders at this point, because it means now I can make pretty much any ingredient item in the game from other ingredient items. There are a few that are a bit difficult to make or very expensive to make. Dark matter, for instance, you can make using the philosopher's stone. In fact, you have to at the end of the day. But it's extremely expensive to make. But nevertheless, this is the first step on what's going to be a long and interesting journey come the end of the game. The first outing of the miner is relatively successful. Some ores, 3 diamonds, which is always bonus. But basically I now have to find somewhere else to use it. Luckily enough, I find somewhere with a ore density of 58, which is considerably better than the 40 that the first outing of the mining got. And so we finally get to the last thing I want to build for this episode. I want to get a filler. They're really handy for flattening out areas and for putting down basic slabs for you to build other things on, perhaps using a builder for instance. But because the builder requires the template drawing table to operate, the filler is a good first item to have from the BuildCraft repertoire. for the filler done. Now it's just a case of making it. Sorry for being a little bit mercenary over not letting you watch the creation of all the bits and bobs to make the filler, but it's all going to be covered later on, I promise you, when I make the builder, and the template drawing table for that matter. All the while I've been building the filler, turns out the miner has also finished, so it's time to find somewhere else for it to work. A little bit further away I do find another high ore density place to do some mining, and this time I figure it's better to use solar to power the miner than to use any other power. So I build myself a little 4 solar cell flower with a bat box, just to keep the miner happy. And so, sadly, we reached the end of another video. My longest one so far at 1 minute and 14 and a tiny bit. Don't worry, there's more to come soon. Tatty bye for now.